everybody. This is our first face-to-face or virtual meeting of ES 2310 Thermodynamics for the spring of 2020. So I have a few people here in class with me today, and I have several people who are not physically present here. So I want to make sure that we go over all the elements of the class to make sure that everybody is ready for success. Now, the other part is that my plan is to meet face-to-face most Tuesdays, and then we'll decide where we are as far as a Thursday meeting. Okay, so today, of course, being the first day, I didn't want to wait till next Tuesday, but we don't necessarily, the content will be available fully online, so you will not have to be here most Thursdays unless we have a need to meet, which I'm open to that as well. So just to let you know what's going on. So if we take a look at our Moodle page, as I've said, mine looks a little bit different because it's a faculty page, but the elements are similar. And basically when you go to my.nwc.edu, come over here to the right-hand side and access the thermodynamics page underneath the tab, the Moodle header. Now, a couple of things, we've talked about this a little bit, but today what I want to do is to go over some of the specific elements of our class syllabus. And if you're here, I've handed this out to you, but if you're not here, then this is sort of our contract for the class, what you need to do to get the grade that you want, and this is also an opportunity to ask questions. First of all, we will meet either here in SM 104 or we'll have an arranged time, but our regular meeting time is Tuesday, Thursday from 10:50 to 12:05. I always like to try to front load the weeks in classes like this, so we'll plan on meeting on Tuesdays if you're available. Because we do have the online component, you're not obligated to meet with me, but I hope that you will take advantage of the time that we can spend together. If you are not able to come on the Tuesday when we meet or alternate Thursdays, I want to remind you that I'm always available. I feel like I'm in my office a lot. Some people may argue, but I feel like I'm there a lot, and any time that I'm there, I am more than happy to work with you, so don't ever hesitate to come by. It can be more efficient to schedule an appointment with me if you need time outside of class, just because if I have meetings or other students coming in, I would prefer to allocate the time to you alone, but anytime that I'm there, I'm certainly available to work with you. So what do we talk about in thermodynamics? I have to tell you, first of all, thermodynamics is my very favorite engineering science course to teach. There's really just some really good stuff here. And conceptually, it really is a shift in thinking for most engineering students. I've had students from other schools complain about how difficult thermodynamics is. I think that the book that we use and the method that we use in this school do not replicate that level of difficulty. It's definitely difficult, but I've had a lot of students have a great deal of success and a high level of understanding from the way that we do it here. So I expect the same will happen for you. So if somebody's told you thermo's scary, it's not scary here. So there you go. So what do? We talk about thermodynamic variables, processes, and laws, followed by the derivation of thermodynamic relationships applied to real physical problems. Concepts include mass, energy, and entropy balances. So the general description, thermodynamics is the study of energy and entropy. In this course, we'll take a classical, which means macroscopic, approach to these topics. If you become a chemical engineer or a process engineer, you may take a microscopic approach to thermodynamics later on, or you may do some classes in heat transfer that are specific to your field. Like there's chemical thermodynamics and petroleum thermodynamics and so forth. But this sets the stage for all of those different classes. A prerequisite, we need to have Calc 2 is really the big one. Then if you've had dynamics or physics, that's a good lead-in, but chemistry is also quite helpful. So the only thing I really try not to deviate too much on is the Calc 2, just because you kind of need that level of math to get through the material without floundering in the math. If you're in Calc 2 right now, but you have enough background, it'll still work. But that's sort of where there's different ways we can come at the prerequisite material. The problem solution sets you'll see in here are more similar to chemistry problems than they are to physics problems. So what are our goals? We want to gain factual knowledge and terminology of engineering thermodynamics, and to understand phase behavior, state functions, and to solve problems, and basically to present solutions in an industry standard format, which you all know means the green paper or something similar. Engineering quadro paper, beautifully executed work. And as I'm looking around this room, there are several people in here who their homework is just exquisite. So just keep up the good work. If you are, you know who we're talking about. So some of you have wonderful homework, so just keep it up. But if you don't understand everything that we talk about here in the goals and objectives and the general description, that's a good thing, because if you did, you wouldn't have to be here at all. So most people are familiar with the idea of energy. We have to break it down a little bit differently, because it means something specific in a scientific sense, and we use it in a more general way in everyday life. So we have to be we have to not redefine, but we have to tighten up our definition of energy. Entropy is not something that most people are that familiar with, so we'll introduce that in the second half of the semester after we get all of our mass balance and energy balances down. Topics, we talk about power and refrigeration. Refrigeration is, from a mathematical point of view, it's extraordinarily similar to heating. It's a driven system, so we have some strong correlations, but refrigeration is probably one of the underpinnings of modern life, and it's really cool to see how it works. We talk about phase behavior, equilibrium, pure substances, work and heat, energy and entropy, irreversibility and availability, material balance, and the zeroth, first, second, and third laws of thermodynamics. The first and second laws of thermo are our big workhorses. Those are the ones that really do the heavy lifting in here for us. The zeroth law actually came about because there was an assumption that's always made about equality of temperature, that it occurred to people after the first and second law were developed that we were making this assumption, but we didn't really have a statement of a law. So they named it the zeroth law of thermodynamics, because it is an underpinning of the first and second, even though nobody really explicitly stated it till afterward. So the text that we'll use is Thermodynamics and Engineering Approach, and I have the binder version, but this is what the cover of the 8th edition looks like. If you have the 7th edition or the 9th edition, it will work equally as well. The only caution I have for you is make sure that you do not buy an international version. Sometimes you'll be able to get them cheaper. The reason that you can't have an international version is they only use SI units. So you have to have both US customary units and SI units. So if you ordered a textbook like that, there's going to be some serious deficits in the material. You can borrow a textbook from me or from your classmate to catch up, but it will be much easier if you just have the US version of the textbook. All right, so after that, how are you going to get graded in here? Homework is worth 15%, midterm and final are both worth 40%, and your attendance is worth 5%. Now the way that I check attendance is if you're here, of course, but online I check to see if you've accessed the different elements, So like if I put up video lectures, have you watched them? And somebody pointed out to me, one of my colleagues pointed out, well, somebody could just turn it on and then go, make a cup of tea or something, so maybe they didn't watch it. But I don't know what you're doing in class either, right? So, I know you're here, you get credit, so as long as you're not sleeping or on your cell phone, it's kind of the same deal. So you get an extra little bonus, and most engineers just get a bonus for their attendance, so that's a good thing. I don't usually have to reduce your grade for that. But if you make a 90 to 100, you'll get an A, and 80 to less than 90 will be a B, and so forth. University of Wyoming has quit awarding minus and plus grades. So we have not done that yet. We still do, we don't have an A plus, and we don't have any designators on an F. An F is just an F, but you can have D plus, D minus, A minus, and so forth. I assign those sort of at my own discretion, but if you get a 90%, you're guaranteed an A. Absolutely, you're not going to get an A minus, even if everybody else in class had a 98%, which would never happen, but that would be really exciting for me and easy to grade your exams. But if you get a 90, you're guaranteed an A. But if you get like an 88, I don't know if that's going to be a B plus, or an A minus. It just depends on how the rest of the grades flesh out. But I will never, ever, ever mark you down. I mean, never ever. If you make a 90, if you make an 80, and everybody else in the class had a 98, you still get a B, a solid B. So just letting you know, it will always work in your favor. So it'll always be at least fair and maybe a little bonus, depending on how everything fleshes out. If you need to get a hold of me, please email me. I do not pick up my voicemail very often, so don't, if you leave a voicemail for me, I may or may not ever hear it. So if I need to get a hold of you, I'll email you to your student account here at NWC. The reason for that is the nice people over at Instructional Technology set me up a batch account so that I can email you quickly. So you have to have access to your nwc.edu account. I'll notice this will be up on our Moodle page, and you're responsible for all material covered during excused and unexcused absences, but that's where Moodle comes in, because you're never going to have to guess. You're always going to know what is necessary to be done, and you'll always have access to the material. All right, now where it says this next point, homework will be assigned almost every class period and will be completed by the beginning of class. You don't turn it in every single time. We turn it in chapter by chapter, just like we've done in other classes that you've had with me. But the reason I say it's due at the beginning of the next class is because if you start to have trouble, you can ask me questions. It's the most natural time to ask questions before you get behind in your homework. So if you keep up with it, there may be 3 homework assignments per chapter, but they'll all be handed in together for, say, chapter 1. But if you keep up with it and you ask questions as they arise, you'll be better off. The midterm and final exams are cumulative. Midterm exam will cover chapters 1 through 4. Final exam will cover chapter 5 through 8. So we don't go back and dip into 1 to 4, but you kind of have to have 1 to 4 before you can do 5 to 8. So that's sort of the cumulative nature. And just like in the past, every one of my exams has 4 problems, 1 from each chapter. They're equally weighted. So sometimes some of the problems are more difficult or not as difficult as others, but they're each worth 25% of your exam. So that's the good news. And I will alert you, there are a few things that are so cumulative, that are so foundational, like when we get into working with property tables, for example, it'll never go away. So you have to learn how to do it. So, and it's not like it's particularly difficult, but some people will sort of think, oh, this is not really what I want to do. I'll just wait till the next chapter. Well, it's not going to work for certain things. But I will alert you when those things become sort of foundational pieces. And then I will be available to help you if it is not, if it doesn't flow naturally for you. It says here that students will hand in their homework notebook after each chapter is completed. That is on Moodle. So you'll take that whole stack of homework, whether it's 1 assignment, 2 assignments, or 3 assignments for each chapter, and hand it in on Moodle. Okay? And then and I will grade them afterward. For full credit on homeworks, you must use Quadro paper and the homework template. Academic honesty is not tolerated. There's a student handbook here that refers to there's 2 different ways that you can engage in academic dishonesty. One of them is cheating, and the other one has the unfortunate name of trafficking, which means cheating means you copy from someone else. Trafficking means you let somebody copy from you. So they're both dishonest. And my opinion of academic dishonesty is I want to be fair to everybody. I want everybody to have the same shot at success. And dishonesty in either of those cases prevents that from happening. So that's why I want to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay? So just don't, because it's easier. And if you get a bad grade on something, it doesn't matter. You're going to be fine as long as you just keep at it. Please don't use your cell phone during class. Now, I mean within reason. If you're, like I had a class a long time ago, I may have told some of you about this. I was teaching a physics class, and most of my students were paramedics and EMTs and firemen. And afterward, they told me I need to keep my cell phone because, like, I have to get on the ambulance if something happens. I'm like, yes, please do. That would be, I want you to save people's lives. That is more important than what we're doing here. But I mean, not random things, right? So use discretion, we'll all be fine. During exams, a little different, no cell phones at all on that midterm and the final. But I will keep my cell phone with me during that time because if there is a campus emergency, I'm on the Rave alert system just like you guys are, so we will know. Now, that's never happened, but we want to make sure that we are the first to know what's going on if something happens that we need to cope with. And don't use tobacco products in class. If you're home doing it in Moodle, it's fine. You can do whatever you want. But in front of me, I just find it to be nasty. We don't really have a policy on campus about chewing tobacco, but I just don't like it. So let's just not do it. I don't see anyone in here who looks like they're going to be a major offender of that, but you never know. So.
What's the quadrille paper?
Yeah, that's the green paper. It doesn't have to be green. Let me come back over here and show you. Yes, the engineering comp paper. So if you look at the homework template, I've shown it on green paper, but you can use any sort of a grid paper. No spiral notebook paper. Yep, what you have is perfect. What you have is perfect. Nothing pulled out of a notebook. Nothing with, with like fringes on the end, and no just plain line paper. Okay, and that's still industry standard for engineers. So some people are very careful because engineering comp paper can be a little bit more spendy. So if you do your homework and then recopy it on quadrille paper, that's fine with me. Big erasers don't bother me, just as long as it's nice and legible, so I can follow your train of thought. All right. So I think I backed out of that. All right. So I think we are almost done with the syllabus, and then I'll just go through the Moodle page a little bit. But the rest of this is universal syllabus information. Talks to you about the fact that we're committed to removing barriers for students with disabilities, and we are also committed to non-discrimination. And I definitely subscribe to that way of looking at the world. So please feel safe in whatever capacity you need to feel safe here. And if you do have a disability, or even if you don't have a documented disability, if something just makes class easier for you, just let me know and I'll make that accommodation for you. I've had a lot of students who really, like in a class like this, it may not be a problem, but just can't take noise during exams. You can take tests privately. I'll put you somewhere quiet if that's helpful to you. I've had students who needed different things that I don't really understand, but like I had one student who needed a blue transparency over all the work because he could read it better, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I had one student who liked to she liked to have her headphones in and listen to positive affirmations about herself during the test. You're a wonderful student, you're working hard, I'm like, it's fine with me. Yes?
How do you feel about us listening to music?
It's okay. As long as the music isn't like Thermodynamics first law. No, I mean, right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm good with it. So, yeah, I had another student who, she liked to put M&Ms, she liked candy, so she would put M&Ms here, and every time she worked a problem successfully, she would eat an M&M to give herself a little reward. It's cool. That's all good. So whatever it takes, as long as it's not a lifeline to your friend who's a practicing engineer, is good with me. So that's right. That's exactly right. So see, I know some of your families, and I know there's lots of help available. So the rest of this is about dropping and withdrawing. Please, if you do need to drop this class or withdraw from this class, let me know. But the most important part is to go through the process and get the paperwork done, because I don't really have authorization to withdraw you from the class except under very specific circumstances. So it's better if you do it yourself. I can help you with the process, but just because you tell me doesn't mean that it's a done deal. So make sure you go through the process if you need to drop. Aside from that, we have a hit the ground running kind of a semester. If you look at our academic calendar, there are basically no breaks until spring break. So that's always an interesting way to go about it. I kind of like it better. I like to go to school 5 days a week and get it done. So if we take a look here at the academic calendar. No, this is way too light. I want the 20. Let's see if this will. Spring, let's see if it'll do it. Nope, see. Anyway, I guess you just have to take my word for it. Our spring break is the first full week in March, and I do not believe that we have a day off until then. So here we go. There we go. Spring 2020. Yep. So as you see, we're right here. We're just right after classes begin. You can add classes, then you can change to an audit or drop a class. Now there's a difference between dropping and withdrawing. If you drop, which is before the 24th, which would be next week, the class doesn't show up on your transcript at all. If you withdraw, it shows up as a W, but you don't have a failing grade and it doesn't affect your grade point average. And so there's much longer time to withdraw. You don't have to withdraw until April 10th. But as you see, we don't have any days off. The last day of class before spring break is March 6th. The next week we have spring break, so we'll be off for a whole week. And then we come back and we have a spring recess, which I like to call the holiday formerly known as Easter. So we have a spring break and a spring recess, but that's the 4 days or whatever that we have for Easter. And then we have an advising day where only evening classes meet, so we won't meet on that week. And then we have graduation on May 9th. So like I said, we kind of hit the ground running and take off. So at this point, you guys have any questions for me? All right. So going back to our Moodle page, we've covered the syllabus. I don't really have anything in announcements, but I always leave that tab there just in case anybody wants to have anything. I'm going to just switch my role to student so it looks more like yours. Okay, because mine has a bunch of other junk on it. So what you see is we have this beginning part. Then I organize it by chapters rather than by weeks. So basically, this is chapter 1. Wherever we have these links, that is a video that you watch. So I'll put this one up here as well. This will be like lecture 1C. That just goes along with the 2 that I've emailed you, so those are very, very short. The first content lecture is really the beginning of chapter 1, and then the next one is finishing chapter 1. So there's really only 2 content lectures for this chapter. And then there's some diagrams and some other things. The complete list of homework problems is given here. That's taken from the book. Once again, if you use edition 7, 8, or 9, this would be the correct edition, the correct problems. E afterward means that it's an English unit problem. So that's why if you have an international version, those are the ones that are going to differ for you. C just means it's a conceptual problem. So you're just writing some thoughts that you have about what they ask. The other ones are SI problems. And anyway, so you can take a look at that. Then where it says submit homework, this one will be due January 23rd, which is next week. That list is repeated here so that you have the list of homework problems in 2 different places. Now, last semester, I've just accepted late homework. I still retain the notion that if you submit it a little late, I want to give you full credit. And if you have a significant reason for submitting it late, I want to give you full credit. However, you may get reduced credit if you submit late for no good reason, and especially if it's very, very late. So I now have 2 buttons. If you are on time, submit here. If you're late, it won't accept it anymore, so then you can submit here. So you'll get full credit here, possibly partial credit here, just depending on the circumstances. Okay, so I'll have those 2 buttons. You just submit one of them. And then, time to evaluate. There we go. So I've cut off the material after chapter 1. But what you will see is that I have the material available for chapter 2. I just have it not available to you guys right now, but because I haven't updated the dates and some details. But if anybody gets ahead and you wish to start chapter 2, let me know and I will make it available to you. But otherwise, I'll do it. I'll sort of roll it out in a consistent fashion. So we do chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have the midterm. And I will give you 4 review problems for the midterm to prepare you, and you will get a study sheet to bring in with you. So you can do that as well. And then we have chapter 5 material, Chapter 6 material, Chapter 7 material, Chapter 8 material, and that's the end of the material that we'll cover. Then we'll have the final exam. All right? And the other things, those weeks, are just cleanups that I got to get rid of. So, all right, so at this point, do you guys have any more questions for me? Anything I can clear up? All right, so what I would like you to do then is to make sure that you have the textbook, make sure that you have some engineering comp or similar paper. Get started watching the 2 videos that are available to you right now, and get started on your homework. So if I will be here next Tuesday, and if you would like to come to class and meet with me, that's super. If nobody shows up on a certain day, I assume everybody's doing all right. So I'll just put a note on the board and say I'm in my office. You can come see me then, or you can come see me anytime. Okay? But I will keep the structure so that we are able to, so that I have an allocated time for you guys every week. And then if you need more time, or if that time doesn't work, you can work with me at other times as well. All right? Well, I expect this to be a great class. When I looked at the roster, it's a bunch of really good students, so I think we're going to move forward really efficiently, and I hope that some of you or all of you will come to appreciate the beauty of thermodynamics the way that I do, because it's really just the best stuff ever. So get to learn more secrets of the way the world works, which, how can you beat that? So, all right. Well, you guys have a great day, and please get a hold of me anytime, and maybe I'll see you next Tuesday.